Hello there, very good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime News on TV1. We are coming to you live and direct from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Martin Satyanesan. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for this afternoon.
Expert committee informs court that 4 prison inmates who were reported dead in the Mahara prison unrest were shot. Another 3 COVID-19 related deaths reported in the country. A COVID-19 patient receiving treatment at the National Hospital for Respiratory Diseases in Valisara leaves without authorization. Report compiled by Committee on Specialist on COVID-19 vaccines handed over to State Minister today. Justice Minister proposes to increase the number of judges.
බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන අධිකරණ නිශ්චකාරවරුන්ගේ ප්‍රමාණය අවමාශයෙන් දෙගුණ කරන්න මොකද ලෝකයේ තියෙන අනිකුත් දර්ශත් එක්ක බලනකොට
LPL finals in Hambantota today.
Now those stories in detail. The expert committee appointed to look into the Mahara prison unrest informed the Wattala magistrate today 4 prison inmates who died in the unrest were shot.
The post-mortem examinations were carried out by the expert committee that was appointed by courts. Of the 11 prison inmates who were killed in the Mahara prison unrest, the expert committee has completed the post-mortem examinations of 4 inmates so far. The relatives of the inmates requested approval from courts to bury the remains of the deceased inmates. The Attorney General's department expressed heavy opposition against this request.
Meanwhile, this is what the State Minister said regarding the incident on the day after the unrest at the Mahara prison.
None of the inmates had died due to gunfire that was opened at them. All deaths had taken place due to the scuffles that broke out between inmates. No one had died due to gunshots fired by officers. They had been revealed through the post-mortem examination.
The total number of COVID-19 deaths in the island has reached 157 after 3 more deaths were reported this morning.
A 60-year-old woman from Kotahena who had passed away on the 14th of December due to COVID-19 related pneumonia is among the deceased. A 85-year-old male from Colombo 15 who had passed away at his residence on the 12th of this month due to COVID-19 related pneumonia, and an 84-year-old male from Matakulia who passed away due to COVID-19 related pneumonia were the other 2 victims. The total number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in the island reached 34,121 after another 622 cases were identified yesterday. The Government Information Department said the cases were identified yesterday belong to the Minuwangoda, Paligoda and prisons clusters. 9,097 active COVID-19 patients are currently under medical supervision. According to the Epidemiology Unit of the Ministry of Health, total recoveries currently stand at 24,867.
The report compiled by the Committee of Specialists on COVID-19 vaccines will be handed over today to Dr. Sudarshini Fernandapulle, the State Minister of Primary Healthcare, Epidemics and COVID Disease Control.
Secretary to the Ministry, Dr. Amal Harsh de Silva, said the report will contain recommendations on the best vaccine for COVID-19 available at present, the method of administration of the vaccine, clinical tests conducted on the vaccine, which is to be purchased, and other concerns. According to the Ministry Secretary, Dr. Amal Harsh de Silva, based on the report, a decision will be reached on rolling out the vaccine once available. Dr. Sudarshini Fernandapulle, while addressing the Special Committee on COVID-19 vaccine, said any medicine or vaccine that is used to treat coronavirus should be clinically certified, adding, unless the proper medical protocols are followed, the results could be devastating.
There
is no country like Sri Lanka in the South Asian regions to provide vaccines for the people. We have done well in the past, and as a result, there will not be any issue in the practical implementation. However, since this is a new vaccine, we need to look into the importation, transportation, storage and distribution of the new vaccine.
නැවත මේ අලුත් එන්නතට සාපේක්ෂව අපි සලකා බැලිය යුතුයි. Meanwhile, police media spokesperson DI Jajit Rohan said 9 police jurisdictions and 24 Grama Seva divisions will continue to be isolated due to the prevailing COVID-19 situation in the country. The Panadura, Kotawatta, Munragala, Badakumbura and Alupota areas were isolated with effective from yesterday.
We urge the locals residing in these areas to adhere to the health guidelines specified by the health authorities. We urge them to support us to curb the spread of the virus by restricting movements and staying indoors. Your support will help us lift the restrictions imposed on these areas.
A 43-year-old COVID-19 patient who was receiving treatment at the National Hospital for Respiratory Diseases in Valisara has left the hospital without authorization. Police spokesperson D.I. Jajit Rohan said a special operation is underway to locate him. According to the Deputy Police Chief, the address given by the patient at the time of admission was fake. The patient, who is actually a resident of Grand Pass, had informed the hospital that he was a resident of Maradana. Police media spokesperson D.I. Jajit Rohan added that the patient who left the hospital premises is a 43-year-old tuberculosis patient and a drug addict. The Mahabaga police are currently conducting investigations in coordination with other police stations.
The Palagoda Fish Market, which was closed due to the spread of COVID-19, was reopened today. The Government Information Department said the market was reopened for limited wholesale trading based on the guidelines issued by the Ministry of Health. The Secretary to the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, RMI Ratnayaka, said according to the guidelines given by the Ministry of Health, it will be open only for limited wholesale trade at the request of traders until it is fully modernized and opened for wholesale and retail operations.
The national event to unveil the Made in Sri Lanka concept was held in Colombo last evening under the auspices of Minister of Industries Vimal Weerawansa.
Made in Sri Lanka will be launched.
The Made in Sri Lanka web page was launched by Minister Vimal Weerawansa. The Made in Sri Lanka brand was presented to local industrialists at this event organized by the National Enterprise Development Authority. The web page that was launched today will be the leading online platform in the country that would facilitate trade between consumers and wholesale manufacturers. We hope to reach out to the local entrepreneurs as our next step. There was a man in India born in the late 1890s. He solved mathematical questions that even professors failed to solve. When the professors questioned this man as to how he solved those problems, the man replied, "The goddess Sri Lakshmi gives me the answers to all those questions." The Western world laughed at him. The Western world does not understand how things work in the eastern side of the globe. They underestimate everything we invent. The Made in Sri Lanka initiative aims at proving them wrong.
සමහරලාට සමහර ලෙඩවලට සම්ප්‍රදායික දේශීය වෙද මහත්තයාගෙන් බෙහෙත් ගන්නවා ඒත් සද්ද නැතුව ඉන්නවා. එහෙම ගත්තේ නැහැ වගේ ඉන්නවා. මාතෘභූමිය වෙනුවෙන් අපි හැමෝම Made in Sri Lanka, Made in Sri Lanka, Made in Sri Lanka, Made in Sri Lanka.
The post-mortem examination of the pilot who died in the Sri Lanka Air Force train aircraft crash yesterday is due to be conducted today.
Sri Lanka Air Force spokesperson Group Captain Dushan Vijay has said the post-mortem examinations will be conducted at the Trincomalee Base Hospital. Group Captain Vijay added that the Board of Investigations, appointed on the instructions of the Commander of the Air Force, Air Marshal Sudarshana Patirana, to probe the crash, has commenced its investigations. The Sri Lanka Air Force PT-6 train aircraft that left the Air Force Academy in China Bay, Trincomalee on a solo training mission crashed near Janaranjana Tank in Suripura area in Kantale last afternoon, approximately 40 nautical miles away from the China Bay Air Force Academy. According to Sri Lanka Air Force, the aircraft, which took off from China Bay Airfield at around 1 p.m., had lost radio communication with the air traffic control tower at China Bay before being reported to have crashed. Officer Cadet Charlinda Amarakon, the trainee pilot aboard the SLAF PT-6 train aircraft, was killed in the crash. The late Officer Cadet Amarakon, who joined the Sri Lanka Air Force in January 2019, was a past pupil of K. Gol Mahavidyalaya. While he began his cadet training in January 2019, he commenced his pilot training in July of that year.
The Criminal Investigation Department has launched an investigation headed by a police superintendent into the fire that broke out at the Supreme Court complex in Colombo yesterday.
3 CID teams were appointed yesterday to carry out investigations into the matter. Police media spokesperson DIG Ajit Rohan said statements were recorded from personnel attached to the maintenance and security units at the Supreme Court complex. Meanwhile, the Secretary to the Ministry of Justice MMPK Mayaduna said Sri Lanka Air Force took measures last night to remove the smoke inside the premises. The Secretary further noted that the archives or any other property were not damaged by the fire. According to Mayaduna, based on the situation at the premises this morning, a decision will be taken on the continuation of court proceedings. The fire that broke out yesterday at a waste storage located in the basement of the Supreme Court complex was contained by the Colombo Fire Brigade.
We now cross over to a short commercial break. More news on the other side.
International Symposium on Multi-Hazard Early Warning and Disaster Risk Reduction to promote the availability and application of research, science and technology to support implementation of Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction 2015 to 2030.
Large number of participants from around the world will virtually join the symposium with over 100 presenters.
From the 14th to the 16th of December 2020, virtual conference launched from BMICH, Colombo, Sri Lanka. Media partner, Newsfirst.
Justice Minister Ali Sabri engaged in a field observation tour of the Mathugama Magistrate Court complex yesterday.
The Justice Minister inspected the court complex and thereafter expressed his views to the media.
There are loads of cases piled up in the court and it's impossible for the judges to hear everything. We must double the number of judges we have and increase the number of physical resources available. When compared to other countries and in proportionate to our population, the number of judges is very low. As part of this project to increase these resources, I am conducting this site visit for the first time. 20 billion rupees has been allocated in the 2021 budget for the judiciary. We are hoping to give the maximum to the public using these funds. And also, we need to do some reforms to certain laws in the country. During the past 3 months, I have presented about 30 laws to the cabinet for approval. In addition to these, we have conducted discussions on how to modernize the judiciary using the technology. And I think by next January, we will be able to conduct hearings at the Supreme Court and Court of Appeal using online platforms. I think there was a discussion about this yesterday. First, this needs to be discussed by the party leaders. And then we will act according to that decision made by the party leaders. And if it needs any legal reforms, I will look into it.
From that, we bring to a close this edition of Lunchtime News on TV1. For details of the stories and much more, simply log on to our website, www.newsfirst.lk. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Martin Satyanesan. You have yourself a wonderful day.